filmmaker Luke Gilford.
Wow, thank you guys for sticking around.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I want to start with, you've explored this community in your art photography before, but what made you decide to want to pivot to this intimate story about Dylan and make it into a film?
Well, starting with the photography work, I don't know, some of you may know, my father was in the professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, and so I grew up going to rodeos, and I love Western culture, but the mainstream rodeo circuit is quite homophobic, and so when I discovered this real community of the queer rodeo, it was just such a revelation that you could love Western culture but also be queer and be yourself. And it's really a special community with very warm and loving, and so the photography work was my way of just kind of meeting the community and interacting with them, celebrating them, and really that connection felt like I was just scratching the surface, and there was just so much more storytelling to be done, and so it just was pulling me to write about it and to share my story. A lot of my story is in Dylan's story, but also, so many of the folks that I was meeting along the way. So yeah, it was very organic.
Speaking of Dylan, you have wonderful performances in this film and a fairly big cast of performers too. Can you talk a little bit about the casting process and how you found everybody to be in this film?
So, I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways, the people, the actors, and all of the cast, more than me choosing them, I feel like they chose the project. Charlie, I had photographed for a magazine years before, but it was right around the time that I was starting to write the project, and he wore this Western shirt in the shoot, and something just in my mind, I was like, this is Dylan. And I kept thinking about him, but I never thought that it would be possible. And so when the producers read the script, and they had just done a movie with him, and they were like, let's send it to Charlie. And I was like, do you think you can actually do that? And then a few days later, he called me, and we talked for hours, and he really connected to Dylan's story. The relationship, especially with the younger brother, really hit home for him, and same with the mother too, and just there were a lot of overlapping elements for him. And then, yeah, with a lot of the cast, it was just every single person. I mean, like with the drag queen character, Carrie, it was so hard to find. I really wanted to show a more soulful side of the drag queen. I feel like we've seen a lot of like catty and campy drag queens represented, but yeah, so then when I met Mason, and they have so much gravitas, and their voice and their talent as a singer, and it just really felt right. So every single person was really there for a reason, and yeah.
This film has such an evocative look to it, and it looks, I describe it as kind of golden hour. Most of it is golden hour and very textured. Can you talk about how you worked with your cinematographer, how you came up with the aesthetics for this film?
Kate Arsmendi's here. Can we give it up for Kate? Kate is just so brilliant and so talented, and also just a dear friend, and was a dream collaborator in so many ways. She actually came early. This is not her first rodeo. This is my this is my first film feature, but she has done this several times before, and she knew that as soon as we were on the ground in New Mexico that we were not going to have time to properly plan the shots and really collaborate and unify, align on the vision for the film. And so she came, and we just spent so much time at my house, like really connecting on films, looking at photography and going through every scene in the film. Like, it was a lot of work, but it ended up being so worth it because she was so right. We had no time once we were there. We had a very short prep period, and then we shot the film for 17 days, which I'm sure some of you know that is not very many. So it was a quick one, and that planning was just invaluable. But yeah, I mean, I think the look and feel of it was very intentional. It always went back to story and performance in terms of how we wanted to, like, for example, the scene in when his younger brother takes the makeup off. We knew that we wanted that to be a very, very intimate close-up right there with them in handheld. But both of us also don't like a lot of handheld. We wanted to be very specific about when it happened. So then, you know, a lot of other shots were very more painterly and considered and locked off. So yeah, every single shot there was an idea behind it. There was a reason. We do love golden light. The landscapes have so much texture and color, and we really wanted the color to be very vibrant and, you know, joyful and celebrating this community and not like muted or. I think we talked about the word twee, that we did not want it to feel twee. We really wanted it to feel bold and impactful, and so I hope that's what you all feel of it.
It has the texture of your favorite memory, like your favorite childhood coming of age memory. I want to turn it over to the audience. I'm sure you have questions. I cannot see because the light is shining right now.
Don't be shy. I'm here for you guys.
Yes.
You were talking about connecting around some films ahead of shooting. Can you talk about some of those? And then also, I don't know if the estate approved this, but I really want there to be like a John Wayne Western Film Festival. And I would love this to just screen every night. I feel like John Wayne would not like it.
Yeah, you'd be rolling over in this grave.
Can you talk about some of your influences that you connected with before shooting this film?
So actually, traditional westerns were not really our reference point. Truly, I mean, genuinely, we feel like that history is so vast, and a lot of us are so familiar with, you know, the Western, and we really wanted to offer up something more modern and nuanced, and to sort of reframe, reinvent even the classic American cowboy as, you know, a cowboy who's brave enough to get on a bull and brave enough to try a drag for the first time. So we wanted, you know, the imagery to really reflect that, and for it to not look and feel like a John Wayne film. But of course, you know, the landscapes really speak for themselves. I think the faces within this community, a lot of the real people in the queer rodeo are in the film. So we really wanted to honor that and make it beautiful and celebrate them. I would say one film that comes to mind that I feel like is probably just like obvious to people is Paris, Texas. That is just such an influential inspiration to both Kate and I. So that would be a main one. I don't know, Kate, are there any other big ones? I feel like we're trying to really do our own thing too, so we weren't like, but yeah, am I missing anything? Desert Hearts, yes. Desert Hearts is one of my favorite films. I shared it with Kate. We had so much fun watching it together. It's a lesbian Western set in the 60s, but made in the 80s. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. So yeah, I would say those two.
I'd love if you could talk a little bit about the sort of shift between, you know, reality and fantasy, particularly when, you know, you have Sky performing, lip syncing that song for the first time, and it shifts to the character, that imagine it just being the two of them. I see that there was a lot of, you know, at least for me, a lot of self-actualization and, you know, opportunity to sort of play discovering who you are within like the fan capital space. So I'd love you to chat a little bit about that.
Did everybody hear that?
No.
Okay. Can you talk a bit about the shifts between reality and fantasy in the film? For instance, when Sky was singing the song and then it shifted to it just being a fantasy with the two of them.
Well, thank you for picking up on that. That was definitely something we really talked a lot about and wanted to explore. The way that love can open us up and kind of crack us open and introduce us to these multitudes within us that we didn't even necessarily know were there. And so I think, that's the power of love, and it is like a trance in a way, and it is so much in our own minds too, a lot of that transformation. And so that is something we wanted the film to really feel like Dylan's experience, and for as viewers to be able to kind of get in his head and understand what he's feeling and experiencing. Also, I think empathy is so important, and I really wanted people, our politics are so polarized that I feel like it's important for us to have empathy for others and that we may not necessarily know in the real world. And so we wanted the viewers to really feel for him and see the beauty and love and warmth that he was experiencing. So hopefully that they could go away from the film and feel a little bit more open to something they may not have been before.
Yeah, so thanks so much for this film. I feel like a lot of films are like comfortable being very overtly like gay, but this felt really overtly trans. Is that something you had to fight for, or were you given like free rein to express that, or like what was the climate of making something that was like so overtly trans and like comfortable in gender expression?
Everyone hear that? There's many films that feel overtly gay, but this film felt overtly trans. And can you talk about how you became to be so comfortable with this film that was kind of this overtly trans expression?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely intentional from the very beginning. I feel like in so many ways what we were setting out to make was just something we haven't seen before. So that was very intentional, and I, really hats off to LD Entertainment, our incredible producer Bo here. He really understood and embraced the heart and soul of the project very early on, and really helped us fight for that. I think it's so important to have producers who understand what we're making. Share it with us. What is it? No problem. I think that especially with independent film, it's just so important there's not a ton of people involved, so you need to make sure that every single person really knows what we're making. And I think our producers really embraced that and felt like, this story isn't out there, and we want the world to fall in love with the Skies out there, the Carries out there. Like, these are beautiful people that don't really get the light shown on them that often, and it's important. So we all really agreed on that, and I think there was another part of your question, but
did you still have to fight for that when you were making this film? Like, did you have to compromise on parts of that storyline or anything?
I think one thing that was tricky at times, not necessarily like forced to fight for it, but something we were asking ourselves was, will audiences understand that this isn't just like a straight love story? And so yeah, I really wanted it to be subtle, and for Sky to never be like taking hormones or like saying I'm trans, like yeah, and we really thank you. We really wanted to avoid any trans-related trauma. A lot of the like you feel like something bad is going to happen because it's kind of in his head. So it was extremely intentional. It was more just us wanting to make sure the audiences would understand. And thankfully we all agreed that we wanted to treat audiences as if they're smart and not dumb it down for anyone. So I'm so happy that you appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
A question up here, yes.
Yeah, I am on that topic. I found like the whole incorporation of threesome, throuple relationship really cool too. Was that always like part of the script, or did that kind of come later on? Because I really appreciate that.
The incorporation of threesomes or throuples was really cool, and was that always incorporated in the script, or did you come to that later on?
Yeah, I mean, it was very important to me for there to be a little like cliche drama around it. Someone was just asking me earlier, or kind of commented that Brokeback Mountain was almost 20 years ago now, and we haven't really had a rural queer story since then. And that story is so much about just trauma and violence, and also, straight cis actors, and like we have a lot of updating to do. And so yeah, in a lot of ways it felt like there was just so much that we wanted to do that would help make this more authentic and more joyful. But obviously it's a movie, you need some drama. And so I wanted to look at places that, from my own experience in these communities, what are just more truthful. And in queer communities, like throuples, open relationships, like it's very common, and it's not always simple. It can be messy, and that's real. And so I wanted to just show that, but not like demonize it or anything, just to show how it can be complicated.
I appreciated it.
Someone, right there.
What about distribution? What are the plans? Is there potential to get it out in front of mainstream audiences?
You want to buy it? Let's see that credit card. There are conversations. The response has been so warm to the film. It's really, I think I had to kind of make peace with it before sharing it with the world, that people might hate it. But luckily people have really loved it. There's been a lot of interest, and you can talk to Bo about it after if you want. But yeah, I won't say anything too specific, but yes, there's definitely conversations happening, and it will make its way into the world very soon.
Last question, yes.
So there's a lot of queer joy imbued in this, so thank you, and very little of that queer trauma that we're sort of used to seeing in media. I'm curious how intentional that was, because it is traditionally a very queer-phobic space that the movie takes place in. Did you intentionally say no, we're leaving that out, or was there ever scenes that maybe incorporated that a little bit more? We got a tiny bit of that, but not really. So, but also why?
There's so much queer joy instead of queer drama in this film, and was that intentional for you to put the kind of more trauma aspects to the side?
Yes, it was incredibly intentional. I remember some people looking at the script early on and being like, when does he get beat up? When does when does the mom kill him? Or when does I don't know, there was just definitely, not Bo, not LD, but there were some producers that looked at it early on that were like, we need her taking hormones. We need her having tried to commit suicide. And just all those cliches are out there, and my response was always okay, if you've seen that before, why do we need to see it again? And just being a queer person in the world, unfortunately, has so much to do with survival and trauma in real life. So why do we need to see that on screen? I feel like it's so important to share the joy and beauty and resilience and power and gorgeousness of queer people too. So yes, absolutely intentional. There was actually a scene that did get cut that has nothing to do with that, but it was more just like, we were trying to avoid just too much drama, period, but there was a whole like plot line about the sheep pen that some wolves come and kill one of the sheep, and then Sky comes, and he was supposed to be building the sheep pen. That was like a whole plot thing, and then it was Pepe was mad at Dylan for not building it properly, so he gets fired, and he leaves the ranch, and then when he runs into them at like the Walmart, that's why he's being all like shy, because he's been fired from the ranch. But then we were like, this is ridiculous. Thankfully, we all agreed on that, and so that's gone. And now I think just the tension of, he's nervous around them because they're, it's his job and they're not really his friends, but they kind of welcome him in. So it's more simple and less, but yeah, there was never any trauma cliches.
So I'll just say, we're so proud to have this film at the festival. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, and thank you for your questions.